You see, when I was younger, for whatever reason, and this is as far back as I can remember, I always had anger issues. I don't even want to call them problems. I just had anger issues, okay? Now, these anger issues, even from a young child in elementary school, middle school, they would lead me to act out. You know, I would blow up on people for what would seem to be no apparent reason. I'd get into trouble at school. I would get into fights constantly. And it's because I didn't know how to control this emotion that I was feeling. And for some reason, I was just angry, and I can't even tell you why. I just had it in me. So, growing up and dealing with this anger, man, and constantly getting in trouble because of it, I was pretty much looked as a problem child. I would suffer different types of punishments, whether it be from school, from the law, from my parents. It pretty much progressed throughout my life. But as I got older, say 11, 12, 13, the punishment started not to faze me as much, and I come from the era where you get your ass beat if you a kid and you acting up. You get your ass beat. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, I deserved it. But there comes a point in your life where getting slapped or getting a spanking doesn't really much faze you anymore. And that's the point I reached when I was about 12 or 13 years old. And I couldn't quite understand it, man. But I remember at one point I was real pissed, and I ended up getting hurt. And when I got hurt, I think I fell off my bike or something. I can't really recall it, but when I got hurt, I realized that the pain just went away. It just fucking went away. I couldn't call it. So I noticed that shit. Physical pain will take away my anger. And I didn't like being angry, man. I didn't like being mad for no reason. I didn't like blowing up on people. I didn't like it. So the moment I realized that physical pain took my anger away, I started causing self-inflicted pain on myself, man. Just to get the anger out of my body. So one time I was playing with a lighter and I accidentally burned myself. I'm like, oh shit, well this is a pretty efficient way to cause some quick pain and get it out of my system. So what I started doing, man, was pretty much just that. I would let a lighter heat up, on the metal part of the lighter, and then just burn myself. It got to the point where, okay, now I got a bunch of smiley face burns on my body. I guess I just started getting creative. I would take paper clips and burn paper clips and start doing letters into my body. And this became almost anger management for me, Physical pain took away my emotions. Not sure how the fuck that quite got into play, but it worked at the time, all right? So I pretty much scarred up a lot of my body with self-inflicted burn marks, man. And that went on for a while, and then just being quite honest, man, people started noticing, and I felt ashamed. I felt ashamed of it. I couldn't keep doing it because I didn't want to look crazy, man. You know what I'm saying? So coming around the age of 15, 16, 17, at this point, I pretty much stopped doing that shit and kind of reverted back into just exploding on people. Constant fights, whether it be at school. Sometimes I would just go around looking for fights. And the crazy part is, it didn't matter if I won the fight or lost the fight. And as a matter of fact, getting punched in the face, there was something therapeutic about it. So it didn't really matter if I was winning or losing, and it got to a point now, I'm getting, I'm 18, 19. Now I'm facing real trouble. I'm getting locked up on a consistent basis just for these stupid fights that I was causing on the streets, And I couldn't do it because now I got court. Now I got court fees. Now I got lawyer. I got my parents. I'm letting them down. I did not want to continue on this path. And then, I started getting more into, the MMA and training and Muay Thai and all that. And, that worked great. That worked great. But for some reason, that wasn't enough still. I would still go hard in there and still, for some reason, have this anger within my body. And then one day, I was just sitting there, and I can't recall where I heard it or what book I read, but I realized that all emotions are just energy in motion. And, I was enlightened to the fact that you can use your emotions to propel you in whatever direction you want. Your emotions can be used for you or against you. And once you learn how to control your emotions, you can use them for whatever you want. And I found this very fucking fascinating because I had an abundance of anger at all times. So I was trying to figure out, okay, well, I can use this emotion to get me what I want, So I began to pretty much play around and experiment with my emotions, man. I would bottle in whatever I could of this anger and focus it into studying. I had acquired a interest in real estate, and this came from several jobs that I was doing when I was doing construction, man. Like a lot of the clients that I would work for, I would ask them, what they did for a living, because a lot of them were filthy fucking rich. I'm talking about houses so big that you get lost in the house trying to find the bathroom. Like, that's how big these houses were, man. And a lot of times these people would tell me that they do some kind of real estate. So I developed a fascination with real estate. I'm like, man, now I got somewhere to focus my energy, my emotion, this anger. I became real pissed at the fact that I was a black sheep, man. I was an underdog. So I'm like, I had that in me where I'm going to show all these motherfuckers that doubted me what time it is. So at one point, I went through a little rough spell with jobs. I wasn't getting as much work as I used to. I had $1,000 left to my name, man. And I remember to pick up some extra money, I was working a night shift. I was pretty much doing work that a fucking monkey could do, man. Like, literally. I was working at a plastic factory counting fucking plastic forks, man, and putting them in stacks of 10. I would do this for 8 hours. So I remember I got out around 4 in, and this is back in the day when TV was TV. We had no Netflix and none of that shit. There was some infomercials late at night. This is pretty much an ad, it's an ad for something. And I ran across an infomercial, man. It was about this dude that he got rich on real estate, and right there it clicked for me. I signed up and I spent my last $1,000 on the mentorship, man. And everybody was calling me stupid, man. Everybody was like, oh, you're crazy, man. You're spending your last money on something that you don't even know if it's going to pan out. But I'm thinking to myself, I know it's going to pan out. And I know it's going to pan out because I'm betting on myself. You see what I'm saying? So now I'm building up all this emotion, all this anger, all this shit that people telling me I couldn't do it. Now I'm like, okay, I'm going hard on this, man. Fast forward, I went to the mentorship. I learned what I needed to learn from this mentorship. I met the people that I needed to meet through this mentorship, right? I dug into it. I put my all into it. I channeled all my anger and turned it into positive energy, relentless positive energy, where I kept telling myself, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to get these fucking deals going. I'm going to implement everything I'm fucking learning, and I'm going to take over my area when it comes to real estate. And I did just that. 1 month later, I come home with a check for $30,000. My very first fucking deal. I made $30,000 in a month. Implementing everything I learned. Using all the emotion, the built up anger that I had. Channeling it into myself to better myself. I came home with that $1,000 and I showed my mother. She took that check for, I'm sorry, not for that $1,000, for that $30,000. I took that check, that $30,000 check to my mother. She looked at it. She left. She came back. She had went to the store to make a copy of it and to buy a frame. She framed it and put it right next to my brother's high school diploma. As you see, I didn't finish high school, you know. And that, to me, and to her, was a huge accomplishment. But that showed me from then on out that your emotions, you can use them to your benefit. A lot of times they're given to you as a blessing, no matter whether it's a negative emotion or a positive one. You can use it to your benefit and use it as a GPS to where you're going. Because if you're also around negative people and you feel that vibe, that's your soul's GPS telling you just to leave these fucking people. If you're doing something that makes you feel good, makes you feel good inside, that's your soul's GPS telling you you're on the right path. Okay? So keep that in mind when you're facing and experiencing different types of emotions. See, you might be like me where you had all kinds of crazy emotions that you didn't know what they were there for. Bottle them up and transmute them into positivity. You can also really pay deep attention to your emotions because they're trying to tell you something. They're trying to tell you which way to go.